and I just want to start by saying thanks to everyone for all the cards and well wishes and emails I received over the last week and a half or so. I'm doing a lot better. I'll just say it once because I'm sure there are many questions. I was coming down my front stairs, headed to my car in a rush, as I often am, and it was a February 24th. It was a bright February morning in the 40s. Didn't think to look down. Didn't think there would be ice. And sure enough, I hit a patch of it and had my hands were full with my bag and my lunch and my coffee cup, and I had no way to stop myself, and I came down, hit the ice, came down hard right on the bottom step, right at the right angle of the step, right on the right side on my rib cage, and immediately knew something wasn't quite right, but thought, oh, this will pass, and let out a good scream. And my wife helped me up, and I went inside and thought, let me just sit this out, I'll feel better. And then I had a little bit of trouble breathing, so I said, honey, let's go to the hospital. So we went to Anna Jake's. It's the most time I've spent in Newburyport during this whole pandemic. And so they did some x-rays. Turns out I had 4 cracked ribs, and they're not major fractures, and they said I had a cracked pelvis, which I'm still not convinced of because I'm walking just fine. And the story gets better because while I was in the emergency room, I got discharged, and I was sitting in a chair waiting for my wife to come get me. She texted, she said, I'll be there about 5 minutes. Okay, great. And I don't know if it was the morphine, it was the lack of food and water, the pain, I don't know. Next thing I know, I'm lightheaded and I'm face down on the floor. I fainted and did a face plant, and I've got 3 doctors and 3 nurses surrounding me. They're putting me into a stretcher because they're afraid I've done something to my neck and my head is bleeding. And they said, well, sir, we have to readmit you. We're starting this process all over again. And I feel so badly for my wife because the nurses went out to her and said, well, there's been a little setback, and maybe come back in an hour or so. She didn't take that very well. Any case, they did a CAT scan. Everything was fine. And actually the cut is healed on my head. Anyways, I'm doing significantly better. I'm moving around just fine. I've actually conducted a rehearsal at Emmanuel and at Longy. And so thank you all for your well wishes. I'm sure they helped a ton because I'm doing much better. And thanks to the board for their understanding, and especially to Mary Ann and Mary Ellen, who had the wisdom to convince me to take last week off, because I think in my morphine-induced state, I was prepared to keep working. So thank you for giving me the time to recover. On that note, there's been a few changes to the schedule, so if you can make sure that you look, it was in the news of note this past week. For example, tonight was indeed a bass sectional, the one that was supposed to happen last week. We had this week. I saw there were a few altos that checked in, which was nice to see you. Yours is next week. So just make sure, and I'll send it out again this week in the news of note, what the amended and adjusted schedule is moving forward. For the little bit of time we have before we're joined by Phillip Schoultz, we'll do a little vocal warm-up. I'm not ready to give you guys a physical warm-up yet. I can talk you through it, but I'm not going to do it. And then I want to take a look at this Novos Moveran piece that I also sent out to everyone, and I can share it on my screen in case you didn't get it. This is a piece from the Justice Choir Songbook, and next week we have Dr. Ahmed Ansaldua joining us, who is one of the co-editors of the Justice Choir Songbook, and I asked him if he would like us to learn anything in preparation for his visit, and he wanted us to be familiar with that piece. So we'll do a quick vocal warm-up, and I'll lead you all through it a couple times, and then I believe Phillip will be joining us right at about 7:50, and I'll pass it off to him. So why don't you all, I'll sort of talk you through a quick vocal warm-up. Everybody step away from your computer, adjust your screen, and stand up, as we always do. I can't really get my hands up over my head, but I'm going to tell you to breathe and bring your hands all the way up as high as you can. and out on an S. And again, breathe and bring them all the way up. Feel the rib cage expansion. Breathe in and go. Good. Take your neck, put it to your right shoulder, and breathe in. Out on an S. And look, turn and look at that shoulder. I'm not going to do it. Look at that shoulder this way. Breathe in. Out on an S. Bring the head back to neutral position. Left ear to left shoulder. Breathe in. And as you're doing this, be aware of your breathing. Breathe in nice and low, wide rib cage. And out on an SH. Turn and look at that shoulder. Breathe in. And out on a hum. Head back to neutral position. Clasp your hands behind your neck, your head, and let your head drop down by the weight of your arms. And breathe in. And out on a lip trill. Head back to neutral position. Great. Shoulder roll back as best you can. Great. Just realign your spine. You're lifting from here as though you're a marionette, and that's coming up tall. Place your hands right on the base of your rib cage, and I want you to breathe in and pant. I can't do it, but you can do it. Breathe in again and pant. Great. And breathe in and say titeta, titeta. 3 of them. Titeta, titeta, titeta. 7 of them. Titeta, 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 titeta. Breathe in again, and this time, kikeka, 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 kikeka. And when it's a lot of fun to do, I want you to go blee blah blah, blee blah blah. 3 of them, blee blah blah, blee blah blah, blee blah blah. 7, and we might get faster. Blee blah blah, 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 blee blah blah. Big yawn sigh. Down as low as you can. Relax the jaw. Massage your jaw and say, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Imagine you just had a shot of Novocaine and go, meow, 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 meow. Really relax the jaw. One and breathe. Meow, 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 meow. And breathe. Meow, 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 meow. Breathe. Meow, 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 meow. Silent inhalation. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. One more and breathe. Meow, 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 meow. Good. Breathe through your nose. And breathe. One more. Good. Sing. Bum billy 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 ba, and breathe. Bum billy 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 ba. Bum billy 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 ba. Bum billy 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 ba. On the way down, really light. Bum billy billy billy, like you're speaking. Bum billy 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 ba. And then a little big legato portamento up to the 5th. 1 and bum billy 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 ba. Bum billy 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 ba. Bum billy 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 ba. And everybody move, look like the music. I see John Staton. I see Carol Yunker moving. I'm sure there are others. Ready and one and bum billy 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 ba. 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 Relax the jaw. Bum billy 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 ba. Bum billy 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 ba. Good. Sing. And breathe. Relax the jaw. Make sure your E vowel we've talked about is neutral. As I look around the room here, as much as I can see, I just want to make sure everybody's really relaxing the jaw. E and breathe. Bend your knees a little bit. Think about how everybody posture check. Ask yourself, how am I standing? Are my hips underneath me? What am I doing physically here to help my sound? Remember, your whole body is your instrument. One and breathe. Move, look like the music. Last one. You're going to do an octave leap and sing I love to sing. And you're going to do it with a smile. You got that? I love to sing and breathe. I love to sing. I love to sing. Now, as we get higher, and as it's easy to get ourselves kind of excited to get through to the top note, I want everyone to feel really grounded in your breathing so that it's never up high, but that you're focused on a lower back breath, that everything is expanding. We talked a lot 2 weeks ago about the rib cage, making sure that you're feeling that energy below the rib cage, and it's a quiet inhalation. And breathe. I love to sing. I love to sing. I love to sing. On the top note, feel the subdivisions. I love to sing and breathe. I love to sing. I love to sing. I love to sing. Two more. I love to sing. Maybe two more. I love to sing. Release the breath. I love to sing. Last one. I love to sing. Here we go. Good. Let's do this. I'm going to share my screen in case you don't have it in front of you. There was it's the no nos moverán, which means we shall not be moved. One moment. Here we are. Can everybody see it? Can I get a thumbs up that we're seeing it? I need to make it a little bit smaller, I'm afraid, though. It doesn't all... Yeah, it does. Great. So, I'm going to just play the melody once. You can stay standing or sit. And don't worry about the text for now. Do it all on do, do, do. And I'm going to just play the melody in unison. About 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. That much again. I'm going to play some chords with it. All on no. And sing boldly. 1, 2, and no, 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 no. Going on. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. So let's do the little verse part where there's the leader and the all business. And I'll play this chords. Do it on any syllable you want. I'm tired of O now. We're going to do na na na. But you do it on whatever one works for you. 1, 2, and na 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 na. So, very simple tune. Let's just quickly go over the Spanish. From the top, just repeat after me. No, no, no nos moverán. And then it repeats. No, no, no nos moverán. The next section is como un. So the mo un, you have to fit on one note. So I'm going to sing that. No, no, no nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán como un árbol. Como un árbol. Say that. Como un árbol. And then firme junto al río. That J is a H. Firme junto al río. And then it repeats. No nos moverán. Do that much on the text slowly. 1, 2, and breathe. No, no, no nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán como un árbol. Firmo junto al río. No nos moverán. That much one more time. Same spot. From the beginning. 1, 2, 3, and no, no, no nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán como un árbol firmo junto al río. No nos moverán. Going on. Unidos en la lucha, no nos moverán. Unidos en la lucha, no nos moverán como un árbol firme. And then it does the same thing. So, unido en las luchas. Sorry, I put an S on. Unidos en la lucha, no nos moverán. Unidos en la lucha, no. And then the ending is as it should be. Unidos, and we can do it also on the English, but for now, staying on the Spanish. Unidos, 1, 2, ready, and unidos en la lucha, no nos moverán. Unidos en la lucha, no nos moverán como un árbol, firma junto al río, no nos moverán. And there it is. So, take a look at that during the week so that you're ready for when Ahmed works with us. I'm going to go ahead and stop. And if you look down, this was sent out in the news of notes, and we'll send it out again this week. There's different lyric suggestions. You can make up your own. And also at the bottom of the page, there is an English lyrics as well as some information that Ahmed himself wrote on the bottom about this tune, that it's originally from an African-American spiritual tradition that was also became a rallying cry for solidarity in the U.S. labor and civil rights movement. So, is from one Phil to another Phil. Is Phillip Schoultz with us?
Ryan, it's John. We're actually he didn't have the link, so we're sending it to him right now.
Oh, okay. All right. So, just while we're waiting on him, just a few quick things. Again, making sure we know. Um, I need to just double check, but I believe indeed that next week is an alto sectional, and then also next week we'll have Ahmed Ansaldua with us. As Phillip is coming, as he comes in, I can continue this introduction. But I had an introduction to Phillip Schoultz, George Phillip Schoultz, who goes by Phillip, or some people call him GPS for his initials. He is the conductor in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's the associate conductor of Vocal Essence, which is a professional choral ensemble, and part of that is a group that's called Singers of This Age, and it's an intentionally diverse choir that Phillip is the conductor of. In addition, he's the music director at a large Lutheran church in Minneapolis called Westwood Lutheran Church. This past summer, he did a thing with Nats called Table for More, and Mary Ellen Moreland had told me about him, as well as a colleague of mine from Emmanuel Music, Elizabeth Eschen, who is a mezzo. I think Liz has perhaps sung with Newburyport, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I see Mary Ellen nodding her head yes. So you all probably know Liz as well. And the other thing that, of course, in addition to all of Phillip's amazing attributes, he is also a fellow lover and connoisseur and somebody who's absolutely passionate about the music of Bach, like myself. He has sung with Helmut Rilling, who is one of the great Bach conductors and scholars, and when he sang with them with the Oregon Bach Festival as well. So Phillip and I had the chance to speak. I want to say it was back in January on a Zoom call, and again, it was one of those calls that I felt like could go on and on and on. And I see Phillip I see him right now. Hi, Phillip.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm great. So wonderful to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah,
I
delighted to
just
be here.
was singing your praises, and I'm going to turn it over to you now, and have fun. Welcome.
All right. Well, thank you. We exchanged so many emails. Your team was so with it, and I neglected to see that there was no Zoom link. But we're all set now. We got everything else, and now I'm in the room with you as well. So good evening to you all. I hope you're doing well. We'll have a good time tonight. Let's just jump in here. You'll get the method to my madness after a while. I want you all to stay muted for just a second, and then I'm going to invite you to unmute and to echo sing with me. Yes, I said unmute and Zoom, but we'll go there in just a moment. So just hear this. Jumbo, jumbo, sana, jumbo. Jumbo, jumbo, sana, jumbo. Hello, hello, everybody, hello. Jumbo, jumbo, sana, jumbo. So by now you got the feeling that you're gonna sing after me. This is a little call and response. So keep yourselves muted the first time so you don't get self-conscious on me. And then I'll have you unmute. Here we go, sing after me. Jumbo, your turn. My turn. Jumbo, sana, jumbo, your turn. So that again. Jumbo, your turn. Jumbo, sana, jumbo, your turn. Jumbo, jumbo, here we go. Sana, jumbo. Hello, hello. Everybody, hello. You got it. Now I want you to unmute yourselves and lean into the Zoom world. It's gonna be a little weird, but just keep singing. Here we go, my turn. Jumbo,
Jumbo,
jumbo, sana, jumbo.
Jumbo Sana Tambo.
Jumbo,
Tambo.
Jumbo Sana Jumbo.
Jumbo
Sana
Tambo.
Jumbo, Jumbo,
Jumbo, jumbo,
Sana Jumbo.
Sana
Jumbo.
Hello, hello,
hello, hello,
everybody, hello.
everybody, hello.
Great sports. I love it. You sound fabulous. You sound fabulous. The Zoom singing, right? So while you're unmuted, I want you to look across this wonderful 3 screens of faces that we see. And I want you to say hello to at least 6 people in the room and just greet them in your own way. Okay, call them by name. We're going to do that at the same time. It's going to be crazy.
Hi,
Mary.
Hi,
Karen.
Hi,
My
Janet.
God. My God.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Chico.
Hi, Diane.
Hi, Cheryl.
Mary.
Hi, Marianne.
Darcy.
Hi,
Hello, John. There's Lori. Hello, Lori. Hey, Lori.
Hey,
Kirsten.
Hey, Kirsten.
Bob.
If I were the host, that's the moment that I would mute everybody in my rehearsals. That's how we can do it in Zoom. We can't do that in real life, but in Zoom, we can just cut you off mid-sentence, right? No, I just believe in that value of using this Zoom space to our advantage, right? We can still say hello to each other. We can still greet each other and build community in this space. That song that we sang is a Kenyan-inspired welcome song. You heard the English at the end, hello, everybody, hello. Jambo is a Kenyan greeting of welcome there. When we say Jambo Sana, it's welcome children, welcome. Okay, and that song, the source of that comes from Ella Jenkins and the Smithsonian Folkways Songbook, if you ever want to listen to her singing that and teaching it. But I thought it was a great way to begin our time together. We're going to do a lot of singing tonight together because, I mean, that's what we're about. We are singers, right? And kind of contextualize it a little bit here. So I'm going to share my screen and have to get oriented for just a second with my slideshow. You know how that all works there sometimes in Zoom here. And so what I'm calling this here is building up a new world. And it's some language that I really believe in, and we'll contextualize that in just a second too, with that language there. I want to open here first with this quote. Our children must never lose their zeal for building a better world. Mary McLeod Bethune, you may not know her story, but Mary McLeod Bethune was a woman who grew up, her family was, enslaved, and then she grew up in that time, the transition from being slave, living through the Civil War, and then being a beneficiary of wanting to educate African Americans. So she went to Moody Bible Institute in Chicago and other institutions and moved to Florida eventually and started a one-room school for African American girls. And she grew that school. People like John Rockefeller gave to it and other dignitaries. She became friends with the Roosevelts, Franklin and Eleanor, and grew that school to the point at which it merged with Cookman College, which was an all-male school for Black males, and became what is now known as Bethune-Cookman College, then Bethune-Cookman University now, one of our historically Black colleges and universities. This quote is kind of the centerpiece of my work with young people. And one of the things I'm going to come back to over and over with you is there's a what that we do. We have to identify what we're going to do. And our what is amplified when we know our why. Why are we doing it? Okay. For me, I work with young people, and I work with young people to empower them to see that they can be a change to build up a new world. So I want you to stay on mute for this one, but sing with me. You're going to know this right away, the tune. You're going to be like, huh, where's that? Where have I heard this before? We are building up a new world. We are building up a new world. We are building up a new world. Children of the light. Courage, people, don't get weary. Courage, people, don't get weary. Courage, people, don't get weary, though the way be long. You know that tune, right? We are climbing Jacob's ladder. In the African American tradition and the spiritual tradition, there's this motive often of pulling ourselves up, or not even pull ourselves up, looking upwards, right? Looking heavenwards, looking to the other side, because we saw that as a trope of hope, of optimism. My ancestors were brought here, and they're our ancestors, but we have to do another lecture to talk about that. We have a whole nother conversation to get in that. But our ancestors were brought here against their will, unknowing what they were coming to, and they were forced to adopt practices that weren't their own. And in the midst of that uncertainty and cruelty of being displaced from what they knew and loved, they still saw optimism and hope in the liberation stories of the Old Testament. And then that Jesus figure. But Moses, Joshua, all of those Old Testament stories, Ezekiel seeing the wheel in the middle of the air, they created that as the way to move forward. And so I see that in this song here too, with these words. This is our call. This is my why for working with young people. And I have to remind myself each and every day to have courage in doing this work. What I want you to do for a moment is to prepare to kind of center and ground. Let's just ground ourselves. We're in our own spaces. I don't know what you've done today, but for me, it's been incessant Zoom meetings, right? And kind of hurrying. In the midst of COVID, I still feel this sense of like something's over my shoulder at all times. And it's so important that we take time to just focus and center and ground ourselves. So I want to invite you in your own way, whatever's comfortable for you, to move. You can wiggle, you can rock back and forth, sideways, wiggle your toes, your fingers. And I want you just to consciously breathe in and then breathe out. And keep that cycle going, in through your nose, out through your nose, in through your mouth, out through your mouth. I want you to look in front of you and notice what's there. Take stock of what's in front of you. I want you to literally, physically turn and look behind yourself and see what's there. Look for the exit signs in your house, if you will. What's on each side of you. And I want you to just keep checking in with yourself. Because as we get into this conversation, there may be some things that challenge you tonight. And I want you to always just check in with yourself. Know that you are enough as you are. And that this whole thing that we're talking about in engaging youth and building up a new world is a marathon that involves us committing to just growing day by day. Not having all the answers, not being right or wrong, just committing to listen and grow. So as you breathe, I want to invite you into a few principles that you can use to build up a new world, one conversation at a time. The first is that you literally and metaphorically lean into discomfort. When things challenge, when things are off-putting and maybe you want to disconnect, I want to encourage you to lean in and go for the what and the why. Don't shy away. It's not about right or wrong. It's not about opposition, right? It's about leaning in to understand and unpack, to commit to curiosity, which I'll say again later. I want you, when you speak to be understood. Speak your truth in this moment, where you are now, knowing that your truth may change. It may evolve. I want you to really open your ears, your heart, and your mind and listen to understand. Just to understand. I really want you to challenge your assumptions and hold that two things can be true at the same time. Our experiences are different, and we hear things differently, we react to things differently, but all of our reactions can be validated. All of our experiences are truth to us. These principles that I share with you are core foundational principles that guide my life and my work with all singers of all ages, but especially with young people. What Ryan may or may not have said about me is that, Vocal Essence is a 52-year-old organization founded by Phillip in Minneapolis, St. Paul, primarily adult choirs. And this is a new journey for the organization, working with young people, particularly young people from a variety of backgrounds. I also work with church choirs. I'm the cantor for music at a large Lutheran church, predominantly white Lutheran church. That is also on this journey of conversation together. Many spaces of my life, I am the Black man in the room, right? And I always say to everyone, my life as a Black man, I am no less Black than any other Black person, but I have two pianos in my house. I have a grand upstairs and an upright downstairs. So my experience is very different than others who may look like me, but it's still my culture. And so I find myself really being able to walk on both sides of my identities as it comes to the ways that I show up. And that's going to kind of guide our conversation today as to how I see this work of engaging with young people. So the first thing I want to challenge you to do is to see this quote here. And I want you to react to it. Just notice how your body reacts to that quote. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. And I want us to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we're all sitting on. For me, it was the land of the Dakota indigenous people who are still here in our community, seeking to thrive and grow to this day, even though the land was stripped away from them. I want us to think about this country that we love. I love this country and so many things about it. I just acknowledged that I work at a Lutheran church. I love my faith, my Christian faith. But I want to acknowledge our history. I already talked about, slavery. We talked about ripping land away from people who were here. Forced labor, colonialization, misogyny. Let's acknowledge all those places, the shadow sides of our country that we often want to say, well, that doesn't represent who we are. And let's just acknowledge and say, yeah, it does. It is a part of who we are. It really is. We don't have to like it. We shouldn't like it. But we have to acknowledge and accept that a lot of the things that we, myself included, that we hold dear to our hearts about our way of existence were built by taking away from others unfairly. Once we can get that framework and acknowledge how our body responds to that, because some of you might be having physical, visceral reactions to that, and it's okay. When you think of that, I want you to think of bodies of culture, as I'll call them. And we are all of culture, but bodies of cultures that are underrepresented historically in leadership in our communities. And know that that's part of the everyday existence and experience of feeling like there's always someone, and I'm going to use something that's very graphic right now, and you may react to it. And I love you, and I hope you love me. But feeling like someone always has their knee on our necks. That is the experience of many people in this country. So when it comes to working with young people, we have to acknowledge that part of our challenge is we got to look at the system, particularly in choral music. And Ryan mentioned Bach, and we could just sit here and sing some Bach cantatas back and forth, right? We could just do a little game here and sing a motive and see which one it's from, right? We could go there, and I will never give up Bach. I never will. But I have to acknowledge, we have to acknowledge that part of Bach's prominence in our canon of music, Western music, is based on the fact that there were a group of people, of countries, 5 countries in Europe, that got together to deem whiteness as the best, as supreme, and everything else inferior. And so it was a propaganda campaign to make sure how we center that throughout history and time. And now they left it to us to figure it out. And when you're working with young people, they are innately and keenly aware of this. It doesn't matter the background of the young people. I'm thinking teenagers particularly, but also middle schoolers and even upper elementary schoolers. They are already questioning the why things work the way they work. They are listening to more than we know, and they are processing it and wondering, why did your generation let this go on so long? I had one of my young people ask me that. Phillip, how did your generation let this go on so long? So I want to name that, because when you're talking about working with young people, we have to be willing to be transparent and honest if we want to get the most representative group of young people engaged to be with us. All right, everybody take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. Go with me. Change of pace. Do you know these words? Sing, sing a song. Sing out loud. Sing out strong. Sing the good things, not bad. Sing of happy, not sad. You know it? Sing it with me. Sing. Sing a song. Make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry if it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing. Sing a song. Now here's the best part of the song. La 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 sing a song. I saw some of you singing there. So here's a question for you. We're going to do what I call, my friend of mine gave me this title here, a Zoom bomb. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a little bit so we can see each other. So I want you to look at the chat. Hopefully all of you know where the chat is. And I want you to think of, what is your why? Why do you sing? I want you to type your answer in, but don't push enter or return until I tell you to push return. And then we're going to watch all the answers come in together. It's going to be like magic. So take a few seconds. Think about, what is your why? Why do you sing? Why are you in this room tonight? Type it in. Hold on to it. I'll do a couple of la 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 la's to let you get your thoughts together, and then we'll share them at the same time. La 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 la. Sing a song. Ready, set, go. This is so fun. I love this. They start popping through. There they come. For joy, it opens my soul. Making harmony makes me happy and proud. I have something to share and want to enable others to share, to be part of community. Glorious harmonies, catharsis, for the joy of it, for fun. Yeah, keep them coming there. Some of you, there we are. There it is. To remind myself of my humanity and potential for joy, to make love manifest, to share with my young singers, to connect with others, to spiritual connection. Yeah, keep them coming in if you want to. We can keep taking note of them there. I won't keep reading, but you get the sense there. There is a why to your singing. And so this is why I was challenging the same thing about the why of engaging with young people. We have to ask ourselves that same question. What is the why for us to engage with them? And then to find out how they see it on their side too. So I want to share with you a brief clip from one of our vocal essence singers of this age, which is the name of the choir of young people that I founded 4 years ago. They named themselves, and the name was to denote both this age, this period of time that we're in, but also their age as well. And then they call themselves SODA for short, because Minnesota, our abbreviation is SODA. So I thought it was a really amazing name in many ways. So you're going to meet Malcolm.
Hello, my name is Malcolm, and I'm a part of Vocal Essence Singers of This Age. This is my second year. I'm a senior now. I'm so glad I joined Vocal Essence Singers of This Age because it's opened me to new people and new experiences. Like, I've never performed at any of the places we performed at before, and I never dreamed of it either. And like a while ago, being in choir would have been something that's like, no, I don't do that in my head. And well, look at me now. I mean, it's the second year, and we've performed at least over 100 times. I think, I don't know, I can't count. But we'd like to.
So you got to meet Malcolm there. My favorite line in there is that choir a couple of years ago had been like, nope, not for me, right? And you see Malcolm, and you all formed an opinion of his identity when you saw him, right? Okay. Let me put words in your mouth. Hey, that's a young Black man, a young African-American man singing in choir. That is wonderful, right? Yep, that's what we're all thinking. This is good. This is good representation. You would not have guessed that Malcolm is half African-American, half Hmong. His mother is Hmong. His father, African-American. And part of the reason I mentioned that is because one of the things that Malcolm doesn't say in there, but by knowing him and the other singers like him, that keeps them coming back to sing with us, is the fact that we get to know them as people and to affirm all of their identities, to give them a place where all of themselves can be present and nurtured and loved. And so I want to spend the next few minutes kind of grounding us here to get to the same place with some language. So I put this thought here for you to kind of chew on. Choosing a piece of music alone does not make for cultural responsiveness. Oftentimes we think by programming something by a composer from a certain community, or maybe even singing a song that talks about a certain topic, that we're being culturally responsive. And I would submit to you that that is a piece of a puzzle that gets to it. But just the selection alone, just like the fact of having multiple races in the same room alone at the same time, doesn't get us to that place that we want to be in building up a new world. So notice how your body responds to that a little bit, okay? And no, I'm not saying you shouldn't sing spirituals, because I am the first person who's like, everybody should sing spirituals, every American, because it's our music. It's on this soil. All Americans have a part in that music, okay? We may not like our part in that role, but we all have a part there, and we all have a responsibility to sing and learn more about it, more for later. So I want to submit to you a few things to think about. If we're going to build up a new world and engage with young people, these are some principles that we have to really consider. And you're starting to see the inside of my pedagogical approach. First things first is it has to really be compatible to the way that we experience life. So I learned a lot of fancy terms and techniques and things to teach people through undergraduate, master's, and doctoral studies, right? And I use all of that stuff, but the majority of it is used through games and playfulness and experiences. I thought early on I was going to show people how much I knew with my words because I was an extemporaneous speaker. I won championships for that, and I love to talk, as you can tell, right? But I find that I'm most effective when we just do and we experience, and then we notice what we experience. It was kind of a revolutionary thing when I started realizing to let people gain their own sense of understanding, and then we talk about it together to create shared understanding, that we're more effective when we create things that last rather than just me telling them and showing my knowledge. So human compatibility is the first thing. Some fundamentals of that: embracing dimensions of diversity. And I'm going to say more about this in a little while. Diversity is more than just one or two items. Affirming identities in the ways that we show up. I want you to pause for a moment here and think about all of your identities. And perhaps no one's asked you to do this, but it's a powerful thought. And if you want to jot down later, because I didn't ask you to get a pen or paper, but I challenge you when we're done tonight to take a pencil and paper when you're drinking your evening wine or your coffee or tea, whatever you drink before you go to bed. And I want you to jot down all the ways that you show up, that you choose to be present in the world. Let me give you a few of mine. Musician, father, husband, mentor, Black man, Christian, teacher, athlete, lover of good foods. I got to break out my grill this weekend because it was 60 degrees. Hallelujah. I'm from Georgia originally, so this winter thing goes on way too long for me. Right? You're starting to get a sense there. There are so many ways that we all show up in the world, and oftentimes we only think about the one that we can recognize visually. And we engage with that, and we forget to engage with the, I'll dare say, hidden parts of our identity. That's an important part of this building up a new world, to affirm all of the identities of the people with which we're working. Empowering creativity, seeking to bridge across difference. And I use that language intentionally. Acknowledging difference and seeking to bridge across it. That's where the understanding comes in. The sense of building that new world and shared language. Redistributing power. This one's a really important one when working with young people in music from diverse cultures especially. And then it requires us to listen, adapt, to create new relationships. And I put a reference there, someone who's a mentor and does great work around the term culturally responsive teaching, Dr. Constance McCoy. She teaches down in North Carolina. If you want to read about this, she's someone who's put some books out and things like that where you can learn more about that term, culturally responsive teaching, as she calls it. For me, it's really framed in this whole identity of building up this new world. So I asked you earlier to commit to curiosity, right? And so when I say dimensions of diversity, what does that mean to you? So I just want you to unmute right now if you got a thought there. What are dimensions of diversity? What am I talking about? And know that there's nothing you can say probably that's going to be wrong. And if you do say something that's like out of left field, no one's going to shame you, all right? This is a supportive space. So what do I mean by dimensions of diversity? Someone was going to say something.
I did ask Elle to unmute.
Say that again, sorry. Okay.
different ways of
Dimensions of
what does
diversity.
diversity mean?
Oh, s-
Singing with challenges.
Okay. Challenges. Thank you. We can build off of that.
I'm going to quote you, Philip, but I have an
Uh-huh.
advantage because we met in
Is
August.
this Penny? Who is this?
Yeah, a table for more.
Yeah.
I've never stopped thinking about what you said, that no one is as woke as they think they are.
Okay. I said that? Huh. Okay.
You said that.
I
Philip,
never
I
know
would
what comes
say,
out of my mouth. Thank you, Penny.
Hi,
Ryan?
Philip. This is Ryan. When I think of dimensions of diversity, I think of all the, you mentioned it too, all those ways in which we're diverse that are not um, visual, that we don't see with the naked eye. All those things inside of us. And I think somebody mentioned about the challenges of a singer. I mean, diversity with our own, I mean, the range is immense, whether it be medical conditions, your orientation, your likes, your dislikes, your family background, your family challenges, function, dysfunction. I mean, the range of diversity can go on, and those aren't things that we see. And especially, I will say for myself as a conductor, when you look it out into a sea of 100 people, you don't see that. You don't
Exactly.
know that.
Yeah. No, you all are grasping at it there, right? And you just need the language to talk about it. And Ryan, I really appreciate the way that you are beginning to lean into it a little more there. So let's build on this and let's clarify some language and what's in a word, right? So diversity is one of those, there are several buzzwords out there these days. Diversity, equity, inclusion, access, right? We're hearing these words a lot. And I often find that we hear them and we think transactional, we think definition, we think with our heads rather than our hearts and our souls. And so I want to challenge you in that committing to curiosity. Let's lean in with our souls for a moment here. So diversity is a couple of things, couple of sides of the coin. In the center, you see, I say dimensions of human difference. And that's what Ryan was talking about. Male, female, non-binary, gender non-binary, right? Different ways of identifying how we see ourselves in that sense around gender, around sexuality, around race, around culture, around how our bodies work. Are we able-bodied or are we temporarily disabled? Do we have any mental challenges that make us have to learn and work in different ways? All of those are dimensions of human difference. And the measurable ones are the ones that we tend to lean into. So oftentimes in this work, we focus on the numbers. And I will submit to you that the left side, having measurable and observable dimensions of diversity, are important. And we need to notice those and take stock of that and work to grow in that sense so we see more of that measurable diversity. But numbers alone is not enough to build up the new world. It's the other side of the spectrum, the internal and external side of our thinking, affirming diverse ways of thought. One of the challenges in our country right now, as you all are well aware, right, is if you think one way in the political spectrum, that means the other side has to be wrong and we have to be oppositional. And that wasn't the way this was set up, right? That wasn't the way the system was set up. It was actually a system set up to feed off of each other so that one would encourage the other to grow and challenge the other to bring out the best in each other. I mean, that was the way the system was intended to work, was so that the parties brought out the best in each other through debate and the balance of power, switching back and forth, right? We all know, no matter what our views are, right? We all know the system's out of whack right now, right? In that sense. But I'll go back to my first quote. Every system gets the results it's designed to get. And so it's out of whack because there's something in the way it's set up that's incongruent with our current population structure in our country, right? That's the reason, coming back to this. So then you look at the organizational worldview. So diversity in that sense, diversity of thought and experiences, if we can value that and include that more in the ways that we interact with each other, plus measurable, observable modes of difference in our groups, then we become more diverse. Am I making sense? Just give me some kind of nod or affirmation like, okay, I'm with you. You don't have to agree with me. Remember, I'm just speaking to be understood. I just want to make sure you understood where I'm coming from as I'm defining this, giving us some language here. So from now on, when someone talks to you about diversity, you can ask them, which dimensions of diversity are you referring to? And they might look at you like, whoa, mind blown. Another word you hear often is equity. And this is one that really people struggle with because we grew up thinking about equality all the time. And so equity is about the outcomes in the sense of how do we make it so that everyone gets what they need to be successful in the moment? Equity is about addressing the disparities and giving supports that are necessary to be successful. One of the governors here, Paul Wellstone, said, "We all do better when we all do better." That was one of his famous quotes. We all do better when we all do better. I want to take it out of the politically charged environment and think about it from a human standpoint, from a people standpoint. If we can help our brother, our sister, our neighbor to do better, that helps us, right? Then it helps our neighborhood to be stronger and better, and then our community stronger and better. So equity is about figuring out where do we need to put the most attention to balance the structure, to bring equilibrium back into existence. And this is a particular challenging point for choirs and for other institutions too. Because since we know that for so long we've ignored certain people's modes of expression, how do we get them to engage with us when for so long they felt like they aren't a part of what we do? So that's why a lot of choirs are rightly so beginning to think about, how do I expand relationships with composers of color and musics of groups of culture and colors so that we can begin to shift the paradigm, hopefully to enter into new relationships, to create equity, not just to program a piece to check a box, right? That's that left side of the diversity standpoint there. Here's the big one for me, inclusion. For me, it's one word. Inclusion is creating belonging. And Penny's heard me say this before. I told you I love food. And imagine a world where instead of inviting someone to dinner at your house, which it'll be so great when we can do that again, right? Hey, come over for dinner Friday night at 5 o'clock. I'll cook for you. Instead of doing that, how about saying, hey, let's get together and go to the grocery store and let's cook together on Friday night. And then we'll share a meal together. And we can decide what the menu is going to be, what the ingredients are going to be. Or even better yet, you bring some ingredients and I'll bring some ingredients and we get together, we'll figure out what we're going to make. And then we'll sit and enjoy it together, right? We don't cook that way often unless it's our family members. But think about that analogy for this work of inclusion. When people are a part of something and they have investment in the creation of it, then they belong. Then they know that they count. Their presence would be missed if they weren't there. And that's what inclusion is. It's not just making room in the sense of, come on, sit at the table, opening the door, welcoming. It really is embracing differences and maybe even shifting a bit and changing a bit so that we can find a healthy balance that we can all fit into. One more of these, and then we're off of the heavy duty language. Access. This is particularly important with young people. In order to create an inclusive and equitable space for diversity to thrive, you like how I tied them all together there? We have to identify where are the barriers. Who's being marginalized? Whose voice is not heard? Why is their voice not being heard? Why are they not represented? And then we have to begin to remove those barriers to participation. In a few minutes, I'll show you a clip of the singers of this age singing before COVID. And you'll look at them and you're going to say, wow, there's a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds. And it is intentional that we got there, because the whole premise of starting this choir was, I asked myself the question in my doctoral studies, could I be a part of creating a choir that creates a community that builds on the students' individual communities across the river? Because, you know, we've got the Twin Cities here, Minneapolis and St. Paul. Could we invite them into a space where we create a new community that builds on their own communities, where we share about our own experiences and learn from each other to create something new, something that's ours? And the first way to do that was, okay, how am I going to get that community? Well, transportation is going to be an issue. So we made transportation free. We got the granting to do that, the funding to do that. Some of them may not get great meals outside of the school time. Okay, we make sure we have a meal at every gathering. We always have something for them to eat. In some bodies of culture, eating is the way in to create community. So we wanted to acknowledge that. 3, and this is the important ones here now, they need to see themselves in the representation of who they work with. Because if I see someone who looks like me, that one dimension of difference, if I see someone who thinks like me, as they get to know someone, then I kind of see my voice being validated, and this is something I'm going to stay a part of. So that was the third one there, representation. And then the fourth one was, once they're there, can we give them a voice and choice to help create the way we do business, the way we make music, what we sing and how we sing it, so that they, again, feel like they belong. And it's those 4 principles that led us to where we are now. 4 years later, we're beginning to get into our 5th year. And just as of Friday, finding out that we've received a $500,000 grant to continue this work and to codify it, to share it with other communities across the country, to document the why we're doing this and how we are getting such an inclusive community together. It's not about me. It's about the work and the young people building the new world. You get that? So I'm a firm believer. The reason that the success is happening is because it's not about what I get out of it or what I even want for it anymore. This is bigger than me. This is about how we prepare the young people and give them a space for their voices to be heard and amplified. I think it's time that we sing a little bit, because if you want to engage, and I know we have the director of the choir that you engage with, right? The young people's choir that you work with on the call. Isn't that right?
Yes, Gina McKean, I believe, is here.
Great. Just say hi to me so I can see you pop up on my screen.
Well, she was here.
Okay. Might be shy. That's okay. What I was going to get at there was just the sense of, this is the heart of your relationship between your 2 organizations, or whatever work you all want to continue to do with young people, is to kind of suss this out, to kind of figure this out from your standpoint here. And so I thought it'd be fun to go back to another song that we all probably know to lead into another moment of participation from your standpoint here. Can you see that there? I bet you all know this song, and you might remember this song here. I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand and hear them Let the world sing today a song of peace that echoes on and never goes away. I love that I heard an echo while we were singing there. Thanks whoever was unmuted. That was a serendipitous moment there. So here's my question for you. When you think of the words multicultural, cross-cultural, or intercultural, what comes to mind for you? Multicultural, cross-cultural, or intercultural? And just chew on that for a moment. Because you may be thinking, Phillip, aren't they the same? Aren't they just three sides of the same coin? Multicultural, cross-cultural, intercultural. That's a cute cat there, Carol. Now that you've thought about it and you're still thinking about it, I just want to share with you the definition here of all three, because I think this is going to help you to define your why you would like to teach the world to sing and what is perfect harmony for you. Because for some people, perfect harmony is multicultural. And that's a place where there's a lot of people from different cultural backgrounds living alongside each other, right? And kind of interacting, but it's really in a transactional way. It's like it says here, like going to a grocery store or a restaurant, a Mediterranean restaurant, right? Or an Italian restaurant. That's multicultural. We are all living alongside each other, doing our own things, and we have transactional interaction. Cross-cultural is where we then begin to compare the cultures. And so we understand that there are differences there, right? And we acknowledge the differences there, but oftentimes it's all about comparing it to the most predominant culture, the culture that kind of has the most power right now, has the most resources right now. The difference in these two, and I want to point these out really intentionally, because for choral organizations, arts organizations, this is really crucial for us as we move forward. Multicultural is like programming one piece by a composer of color, or bringing one artist in just to sing a solo in a concert who looks different. Cross-cultural is like bringing in music to sing next to Bach, but comparing it to Bach and saying, but the feature of our program is the Bach, because nothing can match up to the Bach, right? You get me there? So it's like we're going to compare it to rather than let it stand on its own. And intercultural is where we get this deep understanding of all of the cultures, and there's mutual respect and this sense of exchange of ideas. And after developing relationship, then we come up with new understanding and we move forward together because everyone learns from each other and grows from each other. Intercultural is my goal, and I'm by no means there. I'm really still growing this journey too. Most of us have the capacity in a year or two of deep study and listening and conversation to take in one culture other than our own. I pause because think about how many cultures are represented in our communities. And we have the capacity to really fully digest one in 2 years of intense kind of thought and inquiry and conversation. So we're all on this slow, methodical, marathon-like journey towards intercultural understanding, that deep sense of respect for all cultures. The way that we can create it artistically, and I'm going to scroll ahead here real fast because we did these already, is to look at how we make music differently. So I make myself less so that the art can be more, and I begin to prioritize collaboration and co-creation and the way we do our artistry, and bring my singers into the process much earlier on Lots of conversation about why we're singing something, what the themes would be, and what could we sing, and then how can we sing it. So I want you to see this piece of music that was co-created by the members of the Singers of This Age, and see if you can listen to the words some as well, if you can hear them.
Young kids, we are often outspoken. Nobody listens to our dreams of what we have been hoping. But because we love each other and we keep on poking, though those of creativity can finally be open. You know that we are artists, you know that we are dreamers. We are a family full of fun and strong believers. And together we're believing in a lot of things. One of us that all the futures will be supreme. We believe in each other, love, jump, find out whether we are each other's father, sister, brother, believer, mother. We will always be there for one another. We are the light that moving out heaven. Feel that the love is not strong. That's why we writing this song. You can sing along, tag along, as he find the difference once he find it wrong. On a mission to find peace, serenity and police, where everyone has the guidance to stay safe in the streets, like wandering little geese. We're nonetheless but complete. Without each other, we might be subject to cease in existence. Stand with us. It's not an act, it's a plea to your tolerance. The world is shook and it seems so corrupt. I'm about to take you something, so come and listen up. I'm only telling you one, two in the front, even if giving it back. It's over time at any time they take control and they kick back. Populations being run by image and religion. Actually, LGBTQ for sure are not accepted. That's just what the solution's simple. It ain't like popping pickles. Just listen to our words. The fire will soon rekindle. Yeah, we can save the world. All we gotta do is try. Finding a rhythm in the system. We can stand up and unite.
And I'm going to stop there for time and say that if you got all those words, I will send you a check in the mail right now, right? That's a lot of words there. Let me give you context about that performance. That was the next to last song in our ACDA performance. In fact, it was the last performance we had before COVID. Believe it or not, literally a year ago, March of 2020. It's hard to believe that, actually. The last time we sang together without masks in the same room. But the beginning of that program opened with De Lasso and Mendelssohn, Heilig, the 8-part motet. And we moved our way through South Africa, the Republic of Georgia, the Balkans there, through American Spiritual. And then we got to that song. We are the peace within the hate. We are the light in the dark. We hold each other up when times get hard. And some of the themes out of Isaiah's spoken word were, I want to feel like I belong. I want to feel that the love is strong. Okay. He talked about the doors. You know that we are artists. We are dreamers. We are a family full of strong believers. And so this was an anthem that literally we sat in a room together in our second year of existence and just started talking like, so what is this choir going to be about? What do we want to share with the world? What is our message to the world? And so through a process of just back and forth, narrowing down lines and writing, we came up with this song. And the fun thing is every year something has been added to the song. In that performance, it was the first time we had the bass, and he wrote his bass part, and the drums, and he wrote the drum part. And this year, we're getting ready to perform it again. Next weekend, we have a recording session, and they've added a couple of other things to it. And so each year it keeps evolving and developing. But we've branched out now where we're partnering with composers, and we are co-creating with composers too now, going back and forth where composers send us a manuscript and leave spaces open for the singers to have input. The one that we're working on now is called The Other Side. On the other side, Will we be the same? When we started it, we thought it was just about COVID. And then George Floyd and Breonna Taylor happened. And then this election cycle happened. And then the spike came again, and they've been out of school all year. And so now we realize there's like 4 different pandemics going on at the same time. And so they are kind of creating language to tell the story of where we've been and what we hope is going to happen on the other side. I submit that to you to say that, especially with young people, but I think with all of our singers, you included, the more we open the doors to creativity, as Isaiah said, the more people hear themselves in the music, see themselves in the music, connect to the music, the more we can create a space that really looks like our community in every way, socioeconomically, culturally, spiritually, physically. And isn't that a lovely goal for building up a new world? Isn't that the world that you want to be in, where our choirs can be like our communities? That's the new world that I hope for. So I can go on forever, but I want to pause at this moment. It seems like a good space to stop and see if you have any questions before we have to end our time together tonight. And I'll come back at any time because you all have hung with me, you sang with me, you've been engaged. Next time I come to Boston, we'll have to get together in person because I have several friends in Boston, all over town, at Harvard, at Northeastern. So once COVID is over, I'll be there and we'll figure this out. Any questions about anything, the presentation, life, music, whatever you want to ask?
I have
Carol,
a question.
Kathleen, sure.
I have a question about how to employ some of these practices in an aging church choir.
Oh, my favorite. I love church choir. So as Ryan started with you in a pandemic, I started at my current church in the pandemic. In fact, on Sunday, it was the first time we sang in the same room together. We've been singing on Zoom and through Song Along and other things all season. First thing is a wise friend of mine said many years ago when I was early in my ministry, she said, Phillip, you have to move at the speed of church. And at first I didn't get what she was saying. And then it was like, okay, I got you. I understand. Now, by saying that, that's just acknowledging where people are in the comfort, right? Church is a comfort food place. So within that structure of people coming to be filled up with the things that they really love, how can you begin to enter first in the conversations that people are comfortable with to talk about what could we be? You know, what does the scripture say about our ways of relating with each other? And use the scripture as a way to move forward. The other thing you can do is use the body of music that we already sing. Almost every church sings Negro spirituals. They're in the hymnal and songs from the gospel tradition. So go back and tell the story behind those songs and let that be the bridge to a catalyst to thinking about action and change.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, move at
I
the
have a
speed of the
question.
church. Sorry, something catch there. Yes, go ahead.
You said that you're going to do more recording this coming week. How do you do that? Do you do that masked?
We are. So we've been very, very conscientious of the science. We were just singing outdoors in the summer, 15 feet apart, because I didn't want to take any chances. And then once the data came in about the performance aerosolization study, then we began to figure out how we could sing together in smaller groups. So we cut Vocal Essence adult choirs, have 120 singers in them, and we divided into small chamber groups. Now, people didn't sign up to sing in chamber groups, but they knew the only way for us to sing in person was to divide into chamber groups. And so we would do a concert by each group would have 1 or 2 pieces on that concert. And so they would practice in Zoom. And then we would come in and have minimal in-person practice together. And then we record. And so we have people that we hired to film the concerts, make them look really like movies. And then we release them digitally. So we are not in a place in Minnesota where we have live audience yet. I don't think that's wise yet. We're double masking now. So we're double masking, we're 10 feet apart, and we only stay in a room for 30 minutes before we leave and then let the air exchange. So I only sing in rooms where I know what's happening with the airflow in the room. Every part of the country is a little different though. And also with the ages of the singers, right? And the risk factors that we all have, that's the reason why my church choir just started this week, because until now, it's been too dangerous for us to sing with our adult choir. But many people are getting vaccinated now, and so I think the end is in sight where you all are going to be able to find your way back together. And Ryan may say you need to wear a mask to sing, and you just nod your heads and say, whatever it takes to sing, we will do it.
Absolutely.
I keep telling my singers we're probably going to be wearing masks for another 16 to 18 months. But I'd rather wear a mask and sing than not sing together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I hope I didn't step into anything there, Ryan, but I tried to give you enough wiggle room to work with there.
Not at all, Phillip.
Any other questions?
I
Yeah.
have a difficult one.
Okay.
Well, I'll bow to someone else if they wanted to ask.
I just wondered how you thought to start the integration process. I mean, you're looking at an all-white, all-old, basically, community. How do we do that? Do we do it top-down? Do we bring people in from outside?
Yeah.
Put them on our board or something? How do we get that process rolling?
Tom, it's a good question. And let me, the one part of my presentation that I skipped, let me just share 2 slides with you here real fast, because there's a couple of ways that you can do it. And remember what I talked about earlier, I said the word relationship. To me, you don't want to do anything that's going to be a series of one-offs. By that, I mean, you just do something just to say, hey, look at what we did one time, kind of tokenize. You want to be strategic. So here are 6 actions that support what I call a table for more, that you can do over a period of time, over and over, to move in this space. And none of them involve your choir looking different, because I recognize your choir, remember I talked about the numerical diversity in your choir is just one small part of the equation. And sometimes, depending on where you live, as you're acknowledging, that is hard to do and it takes the longest. So you can celebrate communities and cultures of color by amplifying those voices, to me, which means performing with artists from those communities, commissioning composers of colors. And by commissioning, that implies a relationship, right? Don't just say, write me a piece, get together in Zoom, talk for a year, get to know each other, and together come up with what you're gonna write. Hire artists of color. And again, hire them over a period of time for relationship. And so I know you all are a nonprofit organization, right? You're like, we don't have a lot of full-time staff. I'm thinking like to design your program, to paint a painting, to go to be a mural that goes with your performance. Like, you can be really creative in the ways that you create relationships. And then the last 2 are, I think, the easiest to do. Begin to think of ways that you can reduce barriers to participation in your programming. Where are you performing? How can people get there? Can you provide a way for people to get to your concerts? Can you partner with other groups so that the program is more accessible to them? So Penny's got this stuff here. She's got those slides, so she can share that with you all. But hope that's your question, Tom. Sometimes we have to look at it from the standpoint of, okay, here's our product. Now, how can we take what we're going to put out and begin to engage with the community around us to find out how this fits in with the community and how they resonate with it? The first step is just to start developing relationships with communities of color and people of color, and let them talk to you and listen. Remember what I said, kind of quiet and ground yourself. You're going to hear some things you don't want to hear. Take it, listen, process, and then respond and act on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Say, Phil, can you, Jenny McKean from the Greater Children's Chorus wants to say something and is having trouble unmuting herself. Are you able to do that, Phil? not Phillip, but Phil Smith.
Oh, gotcha. Phil.
There we go. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi,
Yay,
Dana.
thank you. I'm sorry I missed you before. I have a teenage household which is always on call. I'll put it there.
Understand. I got it.
I was actually right here, just getting interruptions. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to NCS for inviting GNCC and GPS members, the high school group, which I know is your initials. We are also GPS. We are Great Port Sound. The high school ensemble is. And a few of the students were able to hop on tonight. And I cannot tell you how the texts were flying about, we love him. We love him. Can we have him come to our school? We really, he's great. His words make so much sense. So they really appreciated your words, Phillip, and we do too. And yeah, I just want to throw in the fact that being part of a community with a connection to an adult chorus for the children alone is a eye-opening experience for many reasons. So it just shows me as a director, small connections can start. It really started in a coffee shop with someone going, hey, what about you guys? And what about inviting us over? And from there, it's gone on to these children that I've seen grow. Some of them are on the call tonight. And they really have an identity as a singer. They have a wild, I hope a wider world view due to the music they've been exposed to with the adult chorus and ours as well. So it's just, it doesn't take much is my point. And I appreciate your energy to give us new ideas and new ways to look at bringing that community even wider and bringing the awareness for the youth there. So thank you for your words. We've loved it tonight.
No, thank you for affirming the work that's already happening, because, you know, sometimes we don't acknowledge where you're already moving in this direction. And so for every organization, this work of building a new world and embracing, you know, the community looks different. So you got to find out what's authentic to you and do it. And I think you're already on that path.
Yeah, I think that last slide is the magic for me. It's like, we don't have to look different, but we can, there's so many ways. There's so many ways. I'd love a copy of that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sure thing.
And Phillip, this is Phil Smith.
Oh, sorry,
Because you
another
came
question. Go
tonight,
ahead.
we heard your album, Joining Voices, which I just discovered today. And it was wonderful diversity of music that you presented.
Great. I'm
Very
glad you
good.
found it. I didn't realize it was out there.
I think I found it today. It was not there yesterday.
That was that ACDA concert, so that I was talking about. So check it out. Yeah. Thank you, Phil. Nice name, by the way.
I think we've reached the end of our time here, and I think you all get a sense from hearing Phillip speak how it was on our Zoom call that I didn't want to get off the call, because there's, even now I have a ton of questions for you, Phillip. I'm going to have to follow up. And we're so grateful to have you here and helping us think about these things in a different way. And I just want to say, so that all our singers hear this, the idea of grounding yourself and sort of bracing yourself for sometimes there's that the discomfort is okay, and that this is hard work for all of us, and it's new work for all of us. And I think for many people, to dig deep and look deep can sometimes be painful and challenging, and to lean in and embrace it. And I think that's what I've gotten mostly from what you've said tonight, is it's a long journey and that we've got to lean in. So thank you so much, Phillip. It's really great to have you here. And please come find us when we can travel again and you can come back to Boston.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Ryan. And thanks everybody for being there with me and singing with me and
Thank you.
Thank
being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Newburyport. We will see you next week. Altos, don't forget you have a sectional. Take care. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.